So let's talk about upper back position in squats, because if your low back keeps getting pissed off, if your shoulders keep getting pissed off when you do back squats or any other barbell movements, you've got to get your upper back position proper. And here's how I would think about it. You know how people will stack rocks they find by a river in a certain alignment that just allows gravity to then keep the rocks from falling over? Well, you want to do the same thing with the structures of your trunk. The analogy here is that the structures of your trunk are like those rocks. You find a certain alignment of them, and then gravity is the downward pull of your obliques and your lats. See, if I find that particular alignment, then when I go to pull down on the bar, let's say I try to put the bar on my back and I pull the bar down into me, then that downward pull, lighting up my obliques and lighting up my lats, that's gonna reinforce that stack of the structures of my trunk even further. But if, let's say, my sternum starts too depressed, then when I go to pull down, well, that's just going to collapse me further. Does that make sense? And likewise, if I crank back like this as hard as possible, then when I pull down, well, then that just makes me collapse in the opposite direction. So we want to find that middle ground instead, where when we pull down, it becomes self-reinforcing. So the cue that I like most right now in finding that position is to think about having an anti-depressed sternum, meaning don't crank back as hard as you can, but also don't let your sternum depress. Instead, anti-depress it, just right on the other side of it being depressed. You get that, right? You exhale a little bit to align the pelvis and the rib cage together, and then from there, there's your stack. There's your stack. Your rocks are aligned, and then you turn gravity on through engaging your obliques and your lats even more by pulling down on the bar, and then boom, there's your upper back position. See? So then, whatever torso angle that you need to take for your lift, right? Whether it's slightly more leaned over like this for a back squat, or it's even more leaned over for, let's say, a Romanian deadlift, then you find your upper back position in the same way. You anti-depress your sternum, and then you engage your obliques, you engage your lats, and boom, such a rigid, stable trunk. And that ought to take a ton of load, a ton of excess stress off your low back and your shoulders, and distribute that stress in a way across your entire trunk in a way where everything will just be happier, and heavy lifting will be a much more enjoyable experience for you compared to what it is now if you're constantly hurting in those areas mentioned. So take this, run with it, and happy training.